Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. So apologies, I haven't done a video in a little while. I've been quite tied up recently with work and family, and in the middle of packing to move house as well at the minute, and that move's been delayed, so I'm kind of living out of boxes. A lot of my hobby stuff's been packed away. So yeah, apologies. We are due to move in about a week's time now, so once we get back on track, the video should start becoming a bit more regular. But I did just want to kind of reach out and just say thank you. I recently passed 500 subscribers. So that is an amazing achievement. I don't think I ever thought I'd ever get 500 subscribers, never mind setting the target. So it's really kind of shocked me. And actually, as of this video, I think I'm on 581, so 600 looks quite close as well. So it's sort of way surpassed anything I could have thought of. So thank you to each and every one of you who subscribed, and everyone that's liked or watched one of my videos as well. So what I wanted to do was, for this 500 subscriber video, I just wanted to give a bit of a Q&A session. So what I did was, on my Facebook group and also in my local Newcastle Warlords gaming group, I just said, has anybody got any questions for me? So what I'll do is I'll go through the questions now that the guys have raised. So, first question. And this one's from Richard, and he's asked, what's your favourite part of the hobby? So my favourite part of the hobby, I would say, is probably painting, although I'm not that good at it. And it does take me a long time, and I can get quite frustrated by it at times. But I think because most of my hobby is home based, because I don't have a lot of free time, that's the bit that I get to do the most often. So I do enjoy the painting, albeit I'm not that great at it. The next question is, what's your next project after Beastclaw Raiders? So I must admit, I'm really kind of getting in deep with Age of Sigmar. Absolutely loving it. Rules are great. The gaming group that I play with are good fun as well. So it's a good bunch of lads. So that really helps kind of drag me into that game as well. And I'm absolutely loving the Beastclaw Raider models. Loving painting them, for all it's taken me a little while again. They're quite big models, and that's making me want to go the extra mile rather than just getting them sort of straight up dry brushed and on the table. My next project for Age of Sigmar will probably be a mixed order list. So as time's gone on, I've really begun to like the Stormcast models, but I don't want a Stormcast army. I like the new Caradron Overlords. Not sure I want to run a pure Caradron list. I like the idea. I think the Elves will be coming along at some point soon as well, so I think they're coming in. I like the Fire Slayers. I like some of the Seraphon army. I like the Sylvaneth. So I think the best thing I can probably do is build myself a bit of a mixed order list. So for Age of Sigmar, it's that. The next sort of project I'm really working on now is, never played 40k before, for all I've collected models in the past, but I never actually played the game. I think I had one game, didn't have a clue what was going on, and really kind of pushed it on the back burner, and that was back in 5th edition. But I'm loving the fact that 40k is kind of moving along the Age of Sigmar rule set route. So what I've done is I've picked myself up some Space Wolves, and I'm going to paint a bit of a, I'm going to build a Space Wolves list ready for the new 8th edition coming out. However, I don't want to paint them grey. I'm going to paint them red, and I've done one little test model. I'll pop a little picture here so you can see the one I've done already. I don't know how people feel about it, especially the hardcore 40k guys. I know Space Wolves are grey, and there's no kind of successor chapters, but I'm going to paint these guys up, and I'm going to call them the Blood Claws. So they're going to look like Blood Angels, but they're going to be Space Wolves, and I'll play all Space Wolf models, and I'll play Space Wolf rules. So that's my next project anyway. So next question, this one's from Lee. He said, starting a new project, love the models, love the fluff and ideas in your head, but hate the models or rules. How do you deal with this? So this is quite hard, because a lot of the times you don't always know how they play before you start buying into them, or you might not know the rules exactly. So for example, Space Wolves, I'm diving in because I love the models. I've always liked that kind of space Viking look about them, so that's why I'm buying into those. What do you do about it? I think you have to you just got to make a stand. You really have to either love the models, or you really have to love the rules and how they play. Because I think if you're only half foot in each camp, you will get bored, and you'll not finish the project. You'll put them on the back burner, and you'll move on to the next big shiny thing when it comes out. So for me, I would say commit to one or the other, and then go full tilt into it. But if you're not fully committed in either camp, either the rules or fluff or models, I would suggest moving on to something else. So next question, this one's from Jimmy. And he said, if you were the fashion police and a law was being considered in Parliament, what would you recommend was on that law that should be worn on games nights? Well, I can't say that this revolves around my personal gaming group, because the Newcastle Warlords are all a good bunch of guys. But from other groups I've played in and from tournaments I've been to, one thing I would definitely make absolutely mandatory is a belt on a pair of trousers or a pair of shorts. Too many times you're up and down the gaming tables and there's big bare arse cracks hanging out of heavy set guys. So yeah, I would definitely make belts a law. The next one is from Cam, and it says, when did you start gaming? I started gaming probably at about 10-year-old, and it was kind of, there was a friend of mine had an older brother who played Blood Bowl, I think I seem to remember at the time it was, and as a guy who doesn't come from the kind of the wealthiest of families, I would say, I couldn't really afford the models. I couldn't really afford to buy lots of models. But I remember going shopping on a Saturday with my friend, buying one Citadel miniature from a toy shop called Joseph's that was in Sunderland, if anyone remembers it. And I remember buying one model, and the next week I might buy a pot of paint or something like that, and I would kind of splurge this stuff on. But I didn't really game with the models. I just painted them. And then coming on to probably Cam's next question, which is, what was your first game? The first game I probably played properly was when I was maybe a little bit older, maybe 11 or 12. I got Hero Quest, like a lot of people did. Absolutely loved it. Had tried my hand at painting the models, but to be fair, I think they're not looking great. I still have that Hero Quest box set as well, so what I might do is I might show some of them off at some time and maybe try and paint the setup today with the skills I've got now rather than the skills I had as an 11-year-old. And I loved Hero Quest. I didn't really have a group of friends who were into that kind of stuff at the time, so I kind of played on my own, or maybe like my parents played with me as well. But that was really my first love, I think. And then also reading the Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone fighting fantasy books. Whilst it wasn't traditional gaming, you rolled the dice and you took hit points as you moved around the story. So those were my first kind of sort of events into gaming, I guess. I then didn't play it at all until I was much older. So I wasn't one of these people that paid sort of 40k up to being sort of 15, 16, and then left and came back into their early 20s again. I didn't pick it up until I would say I must have been probably coming up to my late 20s, maybe early 30s. I had the twins, my two older sons were probably about 5 or 6, I would imagine. And walking past Games Workshop in Metro Centre in Gateshead, near where I lived, seeing all the models in the window and thinking, I'm not going out drinking with my friends like I used to. I don't have the free time to go out, but I do have a lot of time at home when the kids are asleep, or if I'm looking after the kids and my wife was out. So I picked up some models purely just to paint, just as a bit of a hobby really. Had no intention of getting in and gaming, but I picked them up to paint them, and that was it. Eventually I painted that much stuff actually that I felt I should probably kind of do something with them, learn to play. So I joined the local gaming group which met on a Sunday, and that was when I'd painted all of these Space Marines. I did a Raven Guard chapter and had my first game and absolutely hated it. I must admit, I'd spent all that time painting these models and I just didn't understand the rules. I couldn't get my head around it. So I kind of dropped out of that, and that was when I found Malifaux and I started playing Malifaux. And so I would say that was probably 29. I was about 29, 30 I think when I started really playing properly. So next question, another one from Cam as well, is have you persuaded any family members over to the dark side? So my two sons both got into gaming as well as they got a little bit older, my two older sons, and then they've drifted out of it. One of my sons, Sam, has got back into it again now, more recently with me, and he's painting up a Stormcast army to play Age of Sigmar with me. And he's also just picked up Imperial Guard, or Astra Militarium as they are now, ready for 40k as well. So I've managed to convince one of my sons to play, which is great on weekends when they're visiting. And I have managed to convince my wife to play Gore Chosen recently, which was which was surprisingly easy actually. And we had 2 or 3 games, and she managed to beat me 2 out of 3 times as well, which is it's never a good thing, is it? But I would say my friends now are not really into gaming. Although now I've joined kind of the gaming group that kind of backs that up. But yeah, it's tough getting family into it. I think my wife sees it as my kind of time. It's my free time, and I get that as well. So she's got her hobbies. She's a big fitness fanatic, so that's good. Okay, so next one's from Graham. How amazing is the Club Blood Bowl League? I think what he's really suggesting is how amazing is the guy that's organised it and ran it, which is him, obviously. I have to admit, I've been away with work, away travelling in Germany for the last couple of Blood Bowl nights. I haven't even got my first game in yet, so I haven't managed to play it yet. But the noise I'm hearing back from the guys who are playing are absolutely loving it. Loads of banter on our Facebook group. So yeah, Graham's doing a great job of that, and the guys are really enjoying it. I'm looking forward to my first game in the next couple of weeks. Next question is from Steve, and he says, is this Games Workshop's greatest ever era? Are we in the golden age? Now, I think that's a really interesting question, and I'm not going to answer it here. I'm going to do a separate video on that one because I think there's quite a lot to talk about, and it'll probably make this video too long. But thanks for that, Steve. I think it's a really great topic. Next one is from Kyle. It says, it can be daunting listening to podcasts and group chat about tactics, buffs, and battalions. What advice would you offer new gamers to get to grips with the jargon? Well, as a bit of a new gamer myself, I guess I probably also fall into this bracket, and I get what you mean when you start to listen to some of the podcasts, especially the well-established ones, the likes of Heel and Hammer and Bad Dice and people like that. They know the game inside out. They've played it for years, and it can be sometimes quite difficult to start from scratch. All I would say is look on the forums, get on the Facebook groups, and just ask questions, because everyone in this hobby loves to talk about this hobby. We might not always agree on things, but we all love to talk about this hobby. So get on there, ask the questions. If there's anything you don't understand, don't be frightened to ask. We've got our Newcastle Warlords group. We've got a WhatsApp group as well, and there's always questions being asked on there. There's never a stupid question. Everybody had to start somewhere. So yeah, I would just say just don't be frightened to ask questions. Listen to the podcasts. If it's not something you don't understand, go away and find out what it is, and then listen to it again, because that will really help you to kind of get to grips with what they're talking about. It might give you a little bit of help with your tactics and your strategies. Okay, next question, a few here from Dustin from the Facebook group. First question is, are you a brush licker? And yeah, I have to hold my hand up. I am a brush licker. I never used to be. The thought of putting the brush in my mouth and yeah, it never appealed to me. But as my skills have kind of, I say it improved, because they were bad. I would say I'm kind of average at best now. But as my skills have improved, I've learned a few little bits of tricks, and I understand the importance of just having that brush tip now. A really nice tip on the brush. And I've bought better brushes over the years as well, and I do kind of put it in and twirl it on the tongue to get that fine point. So yeah, I'm a brush licker. Do you paint straight from the pot? That depends, I'll be honest. I do use a wet palette now, which again is something else that I didn't even know about when I first started painting. But since I've gone to a wet palette, some of my paint's been a lot smoother. It's obviously thinned out better, and it doesn't dry out while you're doing it. Some paints I've got, so some P3 paints, which are the privateer press paints, are already quite watery. So if I'm doing something like basing, where I know I'm going to dry brush over the top of it, or it's going to be covered in a bit of snow or something like that, I might use the P3 paint straight out of the pot. But in general, no, I put them in my wet palette and I thin them down. Next question is, do you use 2 thin coats, or have you got better things to do? So for example, thin plus thin equals 1 thick coat. I definitely used to use 1 thick coat for a long time, and again, as I'm trying to improve my painting skills, and as for example, I'm painting my Beast Claw Raiders at the minute, and I picked that on because it's a low model count, and I wanted to try and do the best job I could. So I have been using 2 thin coats and taking my time and thinning it out. When I painted up my Walking Dead miniatures, because I was batch painting them, so you take all of those walkers and I'm batch painting them one after the other, I did 2 thin coats, because you can be leaving it to dry while you're painting the next one. We're not hanging about waiting for things to dry. So I would definitely recommend it. It certainly improves the look of the model at the end. You can seem to get some glazing. So some effects I've had is I've used kind of grey primer spray on some of my Beast Claw stuff, And then as I've glazed it with kind of gradually lighter colours, you can see some of that grey coming through really. So sometimes having a thin coat that doesn't cover really well can be an advantage as well. They almost use it as a glaze. I've also recently started using the Lamy and medium as well. So again, thin coats really do help. So yeah, sorry, I'm not a one coat kind of a guy. Have you ever played competitively? And if so, how did you go? I've played competitively a few times. So I played in a couple of Malifaux tournaments. And in our local kind of gaming meta, I was all right. I was kind of maybe top of the group, if you like. And in my first Malifaux tournament, I definitely got my arse handed to me, and I realise now that our meta maybe wasn't in line with everyone else. I finished kind of mid-table, if I'm honest, and I was happy with that. I think out of the 3 games, I think I lost 2 and won 1 or something like that. But I think from all of the guys in our group that went, everybody else lost all 3 games. So that was probably a bit of success for me. And then also I moved over later in years. I moved over to War Machine and Hordes, and I played Trollbloods. My first ever tournament for War Machine was at BlackJack in York. It was a 2-day tournament, and I'd literally been playing Hordes for about a week and a half. I think I'd had 2 games. I bought a second-hand army, so I had the models, but I didn't have a clue what I was doing with them. And I purely went just to get more games in, and because it was a weekend away with friends. So I played, I think it was 3 games the first day, 2 games the second day, lost all 5 games, got absolutely smashed. But what I did get is, other than a hangover on the Sunday morning, was I got to learn the rules very, very quickly. I won a wooden spoon, and I also won a set of paints as well for coming last, and free entry to the tournament again the next year. So actually for me, I think it was like sort of £10 or £20 or something like that to enter. I had a weekend away with friends, had a really great kind of social night out, and learned the game quite quickly. I then played in the UK Masters, which was, I think if I remember right, it was about a 128-man tournament, and that was at the UK Games Expo the last year before it moved to the NEC. And again, I went with no expectations. I hadn't played a lot, but I was there again for the weekend away with the guys, and to really kind of learn a bit and play some of the armies that I never got to play. And I actually surprised myself. I think the UK Games Expo might have been again 3 games the first day, maybe 2 the second, or it could have been 4 and 3. I don't remember. But I think I won 2 games and lost 3, maybe. So yeah, it must have been 5 games. I think I won 2 and lost 3. And I was really, really happy with that. And again, I think I finished roughly mid-table. So out of a field of 128, I think I probably finished about kind of like 70 or something like that, which I was pretty happy with at the time. And since then, to be honest, I drifted away from gaming for a little while after that. And now I'm back into it. I've yet to play in my first Age of Sigmar tournament, but it's something I really want to do. I want to get my Beast Claw Raiders finished, and I want to get back into it. So I'm definitely not a filth gamer. I'm definitely not top tier. But I'm in it for the fun and the social aspect. Next question is red wine or white wine? I'm going to say a bit of a cut out here and say both. In a previous job of mine, one of my jobs was actually to be a wine taster. So I did quite a lot of training. I've got a few wine tasting qualifications. So I kind of, back then, I really kind of got into wines. Since I've left that job, and that was many years ago now, I'm probably going back about... it must be about 13, 14 years ago I was doing that. Now really I'd like to taste the wines I like the taste of, really. So I prefer red, my wife prefers white, so if we're sharing a bottle of wine we'll get white. If it's just for me and maybe I'm out for a meal somewhere, I'll probably go with red. But yeah, top tip from wine tasting is forget how much it costs. The best wines are the ones you like the taste of. Forget all the snobbery. The best wines are the wines you like the taste of. So next question from Dave is, what do you enjoy most about the hobby? Kind of answered this earlier on about the painting stuff, but actually I would say painting is probably my favourite part, but what I enjoy the most is probably the gaming side of it with the guys. I get a lot more out of that, but the painting is the one that I probably, it's my favourite bit because I spend more time with it, I think. Next question from Robert is, how many miniature games is too many? I currently have 2, waiting on the 3rd, but there's a lot out there. This is a kind of an age-old question. I think everybody comes across it. How much is too much? I think it really depends upon what your hobby is. So where I am at the minute is I now have a gaming group people I play with. So I think I need to kind of focus on 1, 2, maximum of 3 games. However, when I was playing primarily solo games at home, I had a much wider amount of games. I think it also reminds me of being a kid as well. So again, I mentioned didn't have a lot of money when I was younger. So I would buy computer games. I had a Sega Mega Drive. One game back then, and I'm probably going back probably over 25 years ago now, was still £40 back then. I mean, computer games are not that much more expensive now. So going back all the time, a cartridge for the Sega Mega Drive and the Master Systems was still about £40. So I'd save up, buy one, and I would absolutely play it to death. I would just play that one game until I'd kind of completed it, and then I would save up and buy another one. These days, my kids are exactly the same, and I'm the same. I still play a lot of PlayStation and Xbox and PC games. You know, you're buying 2 or 3 games a month sometimes, and I think games now as well, board games and miniature games are exactly the same. If you've got a little bit of disposable income, you see the new shiny things and you kind of have to have them. So my shame pile is huge. How many is too many? I would say it really depends upon what you want to do. However, if you want to get into a game series and you want to learn the rules and you want to learn your army, I would say focusing on 1 or 2 games is probably the way to go. If you're just in it because you love painting miniatures and you love playing different games, get as many as you can afford. Next question from Pete is, do you suffer from bloody shiny-itis? Yes, I definitely do. Like I said, I do have a bit more disposable income now than I used to as a younger guy, and I think that certainly means that I almost want to buy everything that I fall in love with. So I've bought all sorts. I mean, I'm kind of looking over at my shelves now, and there's Dead Zone there, there's Walking Dead, there is Go Chosen, there's board games, there's Infinity, there is Mars Attacks, or what else have we got? There's Dread Ball. I think I've bought into everything at some point, and half of them I've probably played once, and that's disgraceful to me. I should probably have a bit of a clear on, a bit of a sell it on to somebody that's going to get some better use out of it. But yeah, I do suffer from that bloody shiny-itis, definitely. What do you prefer, historical games, sci-fi, or fantasy? So, historical is not something I've ever really gotten into. I've kind of looked at bolt action from afar, but I'm not really sure the historical guys would really call that historical. It's a bit more kind of skirmishy, I think. So historical games have never really been on my radar. I think my experiences when I first got into gaming was the historical guys were very, very serious about it, and that really wasn't where I was at. I got into fantasy first, I would say, with the Fighting Fantasy books and the Hero Quest. But I think my love is probably sci-fi. I love Star Wars, Fifth Element's one of my favourite films. I love the Alien films, that kind of thing. So I think my love is sci-fi, although Age of Sigmar has definitely changed my opinion on that. And I'm loving the fantasy side of that. What got you into gaming? So I mentioned before, what got me into gaming, it was definitely probably the reason that I'd spent a lot of money and a lot of time painting models, and I really wanted to try and do something with them rather than just put them on a shelf and let them gather dust. And where are we? And the last question here is from Ben, and it says, is wargaming noob friendly in your opinion? As a completely new player myself, I enjoy the process of getting into this hobby, but perhaps underestimated how many rules there are to learn and some of the intricacies you don't realise even exist before starting up. Yeah, I would say it is daunting, and it's daunting for anyone. It's daunting for a player that's been playing for a while to go to a different game system. It's daunting for a player that's been playing a game system for a while to go to a new army. So if you're new to wargaming, you see all the nice little models and you think it can't be that hard. I see kids in Games Workshop playing this thing. It can be really, really daunting actually once you start reading the rules. What I would say is some games are easier than others, and it's much easier for someone to show you how to play than it is to try and learn to play from the rules with a lot of games. I would say Warhammer 40k, current edition 7th, is a real good example of that. It's really difficult to try and learn how to play on your own from just reading the rule set. You really need to be shown. There's other games you can read the rules and dive straight in. I think Walking Dead miniatures game is a perfect example of that if you're new to it. So some are definitely more new player friendly, but all I would say is stick with it. Most games have basic rules, just learn them, and then the added on stuff, the extra stuff comes a bit later. Don't be put off by the fact that people have been playing these games for years and they're well ahead of you. Do it if you enjoy it. And so yeah, I think they are noob friendly, but I think some games could be more accessible for new players. And that's it. That's the questions, guys. So thanks everyone for watching. I really appreciate everyone who took the time out to give me some questions there, especially some of the questions as well. Probably give me ideas for other videos as well. So I'll probably have a follow-up with Steve's question about are we in the golden age of Games Workshop. Yeah, if you haven't subscribed, please do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.